All right, I think we are live, up and running. How's it going? It is your muscle building coach, Lee Hayward, with the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chat for Friday, January 11th. And I just want to make sure that this chat is coming through loud and clear. Just going to do a little mic check, video check, all that good stuff. Make sure that this is coming through loud and clear and you can hear me, see me, and all that good stuff. So for those of you who are tuned in live right now, if you would be so kind and to let me know in the video chat if this is coming through loud and clear. I know last week when I did the live chat, I had a little bit of issue with my audio when I was setting it up first. So hopefully it comes through. The mic was a bit weird. It came through a bit muffled, and I think I had the settings set way too high. So I'm just doing a little check here now, make sure I have it where it needs to be. All right, sounds good. Okay, thanks, guys. Do appreciate it. All right, so the way these video chats work, if you're brand new to them, I want to welcome you to these video chats. Every single Friday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, I do a live video Q&A here on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel. And the way that it works is we're going to basically discuss some strategies that you can use to help you with your workouts, with your nutrition program, so that you can reach your muscle building and fat loss goals. And this is something that I am passionate about. I've been doing this for quite a while. I actually started working out back in 1990. That's when I started lifting weights, started competing in bodybuilding in 1995, and I did several shows throughout the years. I did 13 total competitions, both on provincial and regional level, and it is a passion of mine. And I am strongly considering making a comeback in the Masters over 40 bodybuilding division in the very near future. That is a goal of mine that I want to work towards, because I have to be honest, I did let myself go a little bit over the last couple of years for a few reasons. Primarily, I had a new baby. My wife and I had our son, and that took my focus away from training, especially at the level that it should have been. I mean, I was still going to the gym, and I was still kind of going through the motions, but not with the same intensity that needed to be to make progress. And one thing you'll find with your workouts or with anything that you're doing, there's really no such thing as maintenance. If you try and focus on maintaining, really what you're doing is slowly declining. That's what it is. And I was in that mentality. I said, well, I'll maintain. That's what I was going to do. I'm just going to maintain. And you don't realize it, but ever so slowly, it just starts to drop off and drop off. And before you know it, I mean, you got a bit extra body fat on you. You're not as strong. You're not as fit as you used to be. And man, that's what happened to me. I just slowly declined. And then it was like, I got to get myself back in shape, because I wasn't feeling good. And it's not the way I want to be. So I really recommitted myself over the past year to getting myself back in shape. And it's still a work in progress. I mean, I'm far from my personal best shape, but I'm working on getting back there, and who knows, maybe even surpass my previous best shape. That's a goal of mine. But it doesn't get any easier as you get older. And that's one of the things I really like to focus on now. And I'm in the process of really doing more in terms of helping guys who are in the same situation as me, because the way my channels worked has kind of been an evolution of my own training. I mean, when I was younger, it was more about building muscle, powerlifting, bulking up, gaining size, as well as, you know, competing in bodybuilding competitions for a younger guy. As I've gotten older, some of those strategies that I used back in the day, I can't apply them to the same degree. I don't have the same level of recovery, the same level of work capacity that I used to. So now I actually have scaled back my training. I've scaled back my nutrition in terms of the amount of food that I eat. And I find that it's actually working. I'm actually making better progress now. So the diet and training programs that I've followed throughout the years have evolved as my body has evolved. So, for example, when I was younger, I could get away eating a lot more food, a lot more frequently, training more frequently. As I've gotten older, I find that I need to scale back the food, especially the carbs. Carbs are kind of be like I have a love-hate relationship with carbs. I mean, yes, you need to have some in order to fuel your workouts and your training, but too many and the wrong kinds at the wrong times lead to a lot of excess body fat. So I've kind of really tailored that in such a way that I try and eat the majority of my carbs around my training window, so that those carbs get utilized for muscle growth and energy rather than getting stored as body fat. So that's some of the strategies that I've been implementing myself. I also follow a intermittent fasting approach. That's something that I've been doing over the last year or so. Actually, probably even a bit longer than that now. I'm probably going on a year and a half, and that works well for me. I have to say, I find that that works better for my metabolism, and eating fewer meals rather than simply eating smaller meals is one of the strategies that's allowed me to lean out without really suffering the consequences or feeling like I am dieting. I find it a lot easier to simply eat fewer meals rather than the multiple small meals a day that I used to try and do when I was younger, which worked for me at the time. I mean, I'm not knocking either approach. I'm just saying you have to kind of fine tune it and adjust and find out what works for your body at this stage in your training. So it's a process. It takes a bit of a trial and error and a bit of personal experimentation, but it is something. Once you do figure it out, then you can see consistent progress on a regular basis, and that's where I'm to right now, and I'm quite pleased with it. So over what I did recently is I posted up a new chest workout, and actually did a little progress video, showing some of my progress in that video clip as well. And over the next several videos, that's what I'm going to be doing, showing some of the training that I'm doing, as well as updating you along the way with my progress, so that you can follow along with my journey as I work towards getting back into contest shape. So that's something I want to do over the next several months. And see, we have several people tuned in live joining us. It's great to see. So I'm just going to jump in here now and start having some questions, and let's have a conversation. That's what we're going to do. We're going to hang out for the next hour and have a chat. So let's take it away. We've got Matthew is joining us. We have Lewis is joining us. Kyle, Mate. Okay, we got, let's see. Lewis is asking, what should an endomorph eat to lose weight? All right, what should you eat to lose weight? Basically, when it comes to structuring a good fat loss diet, and there's a lot of similarities between a fat loss diet and a muscle building diet. And what I mean by that is, first and foremost, focus on quality nutrition. A lot of people get caught up in counting calories. They get caught up in counting macros. And there's nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. But I would focus on the actual food choices first. And one of the strategies that I'd recommend, regardless if you're trying to lose fat or build muscle or whatever, if you're just starting out, focus on the quality first. So instead of thinking, okay, what do I need to eat in terms of, what's my body weight, what's my calories, what do I need to be in a surplus or a deficit or all that kind of stuff, just think about improving the quality. So what I like to do is focus on high nutrient foods, nutrient dense foods, lean protein, fruits and veggies, healthy fats. Focus on that first. Get the nutrition side covered so that you're actually fueling your body with foods that are going to energize you, to make you healthier, to strengthen your immune system, to be able to fuel your workouts, all that kind of stuff. Get that taken care of first. And just in the process of improving the quality of your nutrition, chances are you're going to go through building muscle and losing fat simultaneously. That's very often what happens for most people. So phase one, like if we were going to take, a beginner, someone who's overweight, out of shape, and they want to get in shape now for 2019, what I would do is I wouldn't put them on a diet. I wouldn't say, start cutting your calories and going hungry and trying to starve off the fat. I wouldn't take that approach. I would just focus on cleaning up the nutrition. So whatever it is you're currently eating now, like let's just, I want you to like write out what you normally eat. And you can even do this for yourself. I mean, if you need help with it, I do offer customized diet and training programs to help people with this, but you can even customize your own diet. So start off by just looking at what you eat in the run of a day and see where you could make better food choices. And a lot of times it's so blatantly obvious that you don't need to hire a coach, or you don't need some outside expert looking in on your diet to tell you where to improve. I mean, if you start your day with a coffee and a donut, well, I wonder what would be a better food choice than that donut, right? I mean, simple things like that. You could swap that out for some lean protein, maybe a good breakfast item that I like to recommend for people. Maybe like an egg white or egg omelet with some veggies in there. What I usually do is, if I'm having like an omelet, I'll recommend like you may throw in a couple of whole eggs, have some egg whites, chop up some veggies, have this nice high protein, some veggies there. And if you want, you can follow that up with some starchy carbohydrates like oatmeal. I mean, that would be a good solid meal that has protein, veggies, and complex carbs. That's a good strategy to use when you're looking at your meals. 1/3 protein, 1/3 veggies, 1/3 starchy carbs. Have that as the baseline. And every meal you go through, look at that. And as you're going through your daily foods, look at where you could swap out processed foods for natural foods. So for example, if you're eating like processed meats, deli meats, or canned meats, or things like that, look at where you could swap that out for natural, unprocessed meats. So instead of like having like a ham sandwich, maybe you're going to have let's swap that out and have like a baked chicken breast, maybe sweet potato and a garden salad. Make these better food choices. Focus on where can you put in more lean protein, unprocessed protein, not the whole processed meat stuff, real good quality protein, lean meat, chicken, fish, eggs, egg whites, dairy, like Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, things like that. Great sources of protein. Veggies, any type of veggies. I mean, like you can go through the produce section of the grocery store, any type of veggies, but the more veggies and fruits that you put in your diet, generally the better it is. And as far as complex carbs, think of natural foods, potatoes, sweet potatoes, rice, oatmeal, things like that are going to help to fuel your body. And it's hard to gain fat eating these type of foods. If you eat natural unprocessed foods like this, even if you eat until your belly is satisfied, it's harder to gain body fat, especially if you're physically active and you're working out and doing cardio along with it. Now, yes, it's still possible to overeat clean food and gain fat. But for most people who are eating, the standard diet with a lot of processed foods and sweets and junk food and everything else, if you just make those food choices, those food substitutions where you're just cleaning it up, even if you don't count your calories, even if you don't count your macros, but you just make those changes, I meant to say, that will move you in the right direction. And then what I recommend is just ride that wave of momentum for as long as it's working. So as long as you're seeing progress from doing that, keep doing it. And then once you hit a plateau with that food, then now you can say, okay, where can I change it up? Now, maybe I need to scale back the carbohydrates a little bit, in order to put myself in a caloric deficit. Or maybe I need to adjust the timing of my meals. Maybe you want to incorporate something like an intermittent fasting approach or whatever. I mean, these are all more advanced strategies, but start with laying the foundation first. Clean it up. And the mentality that I want you to have, fill your body up with quality nutrition so that you automatically will cancel out a lot of the bad stuff. I mean, if you fill your belly so that you've satisfied your appetite with good quality nutrition, there's less temptation and less physical room and hunger and desire to eat the bad stuff. So it's a little strategy, but that's step one. So that's what I would recommend. As far as your workouts are concerned, I like to alternate cardio one day, weight training the next. If you're brand new to working out and you just want to get started, that's an easy way to get started. And what it does is it allows you to remain physically active on a daily basis, but you're doing complementary forms of exercise. So day one, do a weight training workout, maybe like a basic beginner's total body workout, 1 or 2 exercises for each major muscle group. Do that on day one. Next day, do some cardio, even if it's just getting outside and going for a walk, going to the gym, using the cardio machines there, something like that, and alternate that. Weight training one day, cardio the next, along with making better food choices. Just those things alone, those few simple steps. I mean, it's not complicated, it's not crazy, but it's simple, but it works. And if you do that consistently, I'm telling you, you're going to move yourself in the right direction. Once those basic strategies hit a plateau for you, that's when we need to really start customizing it and getting into the more advanced stuff. But for 80% of the people out there who are trying to lose weight, build muscle, and get in shape, just doing the basics will move them in the right direction. So I know that was a big overview for that one, but it's probably going to cover a lot of the questions that we get here, because a lot of people have those basic fundamental questions. All right, so let's move on, see what other ones we got. Looks like Kyle's joining us. Will you be taking questions? Yes, I will. We have Max joining us. Matthew. Woodulos. Okay, in the spirit of More Than Muscle, which is a new video series that I've been putting together on the channel, do you have any tips for starting an older car in cold weather? uh, uh, I've never had that issue. I mean, I don't. So I really don't have any suggestions for that. And I don't know. I mean, what do you mean by an older car? I don't know if that's a serious question or a joke or what it is, but bring it to a mechanic. That's my suggestion. We have Istevan. I might be mispronouncing your name, but I'll read your question. Is it okay to break my fast with rice cakes and boiled egg whites? I do a 16-8 intermittent fasting. What other food should I break my fast with? I mean, rice cakes and egg whites, there's nothing wrong with those foods, but they're very low nutrient density food. I mean, yeah, it's clean, like there's been virtually zero fat and all that, but I would focus on getting some more nutrition in there. Because like I mentioned in the previous question, they're very low nutrient density. I mean, rice cakes, even though they are low calorie and everything else, is basically empty calories. I mean, there's not much nutritional value in a rice cake. So I wouldn't recommend having that as a staple in your diet. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having it as a little bit of extra carbohydrates if you need it, but there's very little nutritional value in it. So I would focus on more nutrient dense foods. Again, vegetables, that's what you want to get in your diet. That's one of the things most people are neglecting. When I sit down to a meal, I always think there's two things that have to be in that meal. There has to be quality protein and there has to be vegetables. The carbs and stuff like that, that's filler food that I put in afterwards. And of course, you can adjust the carbs up or down based if you're trying to gain mass, lose body fat, or whether it's, you know, a pre-workout meal, post-workout meal, or any other time. But for breaking a fast, I would have a good quality meal. Again, look at your plate: 1/3 lean protein, 1/3 vegetables, 1/3 carbs. And as far as the food choices, I mean, there's a lot of things you can have. I mean, there's not one magic food. And if you're just having a daily intermittent fast, like, you don't have to have this big complex strategy for reintroducing food. I mean, a daily intermittent fasting program is not going to like shock your system or nothing. I know some people who do these prolonged fasts, which you hear people doing water fasts for detox purposes or whatever, where some people like literally go days on end, or in some cases weeks on end without eating, and then they reintroduce foods. I know it sounds a bit extreme, but if you Google search water fasting, you'll see some, you know, some pretty bizarre stories out there. But if you go for a prolonged period of time without food, then you kind of want to reintroduce food slowly and gradually. And usually people do that with easy to digest things such as like fruit or something like that, just to kind of break the fast after a prolonged one. But for daily intermittent fasting, you don't need to go through this big extravagant reintroduction of food. You can just eat a normal meal. Let's see what else we got. We have Glenn joining us. When's the ideal time to do supersets and compound sets? When's the ideal time to do supersets and compound sets? You could do supersets if you are pairing up two different muscle groups together. For example, if you're doing like biceps and triceps, doing an arm workout, if you want, you could pair up a bicep exercise with a tricep exercise. That's a good time. If you're training legs, you want maybe like quadriceps and hamstrings. I usually like agonist and antagonist muscle groups for supersets, where you're working the opposites back to back. You can even do a chest exercise, back exercise, same thing. So if you're trying to increase the volume, get more of a muscle pump, supersets are a great way to do that. A strategy that I actually like, it's technically not a superset, but some refer to it like it may be an alternate set or a jump set, is where you alternate opposing muscle groups, but you still take a full rest period in between. So, for example, you do a set of bicep curls. Take your full rest period, whatever that is, 1 to 2 minutes rest. Then do a set of tricep extensions. Then take full rest, and then go back to your biceps and then triceps, but take a full rest break in between, rather than having the superset mentality of you're doing 2 exercises back to back with very little rest. I find that if you take the full rest period, you're going to get more muscular exhaustion rather than cardiovascular exhaustion, because you'll allow your body to rest, you'll allow yourself to catch your breath, and you'll be able to get more reps, lift heavier, and basically exert more muscular force rather than getting the cardiovascular fatigue in there. Now, that's more ideal for a muscle building point of view, strength and muscle building. But there's also times when you may want to do a faster paced workout for conditioning and muscular endurance purposes. So it really depends on what it is that you are training for and what stage you're in your training. You know, for fat loss, some people like to do more of those higher volume, more condensed conditioning workouts, because over the course of the training session, you will expend more energy. Like if you train for an hour and you kept your rest periods very short for that hour and did a lot of volume condensed into that workout, versus if you trained an hour taking longer rest periods and thus less training density, obviously you're going to burn more calories if you have more training density packed into that workout with short rest periods. So from a fat loss point of view, burning more calories, sometimes you may want to shorten up the rest periods, do more supersets. From a muscle building, muscle stimulation point of view, you may want to take more rest periods and focus on lifting heavier with your training. But again, it's with all these different questions, it really depends on the individual and what it is that you're training for. So in order to really give you a proper answer, I'd need to know a lot more than just the question alone. I need to know the person who's training, their experience, their goals, their fitness level, et cetera, et cetera. So that's where the customized training programs really come into play, where we can break all this down and get down to the nitty gritty. All right, Matthew is joining us. What makes, a second, I had a sneeze in there, excuse me. Matthew's asking, what makes your muscles big, less sets and reps or more sets and reps? What's going to really make muscles bigger is progressive overload over time. So even regardless of how you structure your workouts, whether you're focusing more on a volume program, when you're focusing more on a high intensity program, you need to get stronger over time. You need to increase your work capacity. You need to increase the amount of work that you can do. So heavier weights is the key. I mean, one of the things you're going to see, a bigger bodybuilder is generally going to be stronger than a smaller bodybuilder. Now, there's going to be exceptions to the rules. Like some people are very strong just because they have good technique, or they have tendon ligament strength, or they've trained for that through powerlifting or some type of specific strongman type sport. But more often than not, someone who's bigger and more muscular is going to be stronger than someone who's smaller. That's just the way it is. So a bigger muscle is a stronger muscle. So the key thing that you really need to focus on is progressive overload over time. But the thing is, you just don't want to simply try and lift heavier and heavier. You want to lift heavier with quality movements. I mean, if you're swinging and cheating the weight up just for the sake of lifting heavier, that may not be the best way to stimulate muscle growth. You need to have quality where you're actually maintaining control when you're doing your exercises, stimulating the muscle, maintaining that control as you're doing your exercises, and focus on increasing your weights with control. And if you do that, then that's what's going to stimulate muscle growth. And of course, then you need to follow it up with proper nutrition so that you fuel it. But again, as far as the sets and reps, that's something that can vary. I'll give you a prime example. Like I very often go through phases where I may do a high volume workout and just ride that out for several weeks, maybe a few months. And then if I feel that I'm starting to plateau with that, then I might switch it up and do a low volume, high intensity program. Do that for several weeks. And alternating different training styles is a great way to help stimulate new muscle growth, but it also keeps the workouts fresh and fun. And a lot of times you'll see that your gains correlate to your enthusiasm. If you're feeling, energized and you're actually enthusiastic about going to the gym and working out, that can help spur on new growth as well. Whereas if you get in the rut and you feel like I'm doing the same thing over and over and I'm getting bored with my workouts, boredom actually slows your gains because you don't put the same level of effort and intensity and you don't have that same drive. So sometimes just changing up the exercises, changing up the workouts and making it fun again can help to spur on new growth. So that's one of the things. It's not just the mechanics of working the muscles. It's sometimes doing it in such a way that you actually are enthusiastic about your workouts. So that's why I do often recommend people to change up their workouts when they feel that stagnation coming on, when they feel bored and they feel like it's not mentally stimulating anymore. Sometimes changing it up can just re-energize you and re-energize your motivation for working out again. All right, we have another question here from Shashank. Can we drink whey protein, coffee, and peanut butter smoothie on an empty stomach in the morning for fat burning and muscle building? All right, whey protein, coffee, and peanut butter. Never tried it. I'm not going to not. I've had protein and coffee before, and I've actually made videos about that. That's actually pretty good. If you mix protein and coffee, like sometimes vanilla protein mixed in with the coffee kind of has that like a cappuccino type of taste to it. So it's actually a nice drink. And I sometimes, mix it up with a milk frother, and you can actually make a very nice drink with that. As far as as far as peanut butter and coffee, I mean, who knows? I never tried it before. I've put peanut butter in like a blender smoothie before. I've done that, but I haven't put it in with coffee. So can you do it? I mean, I guess so. I'm going to tell you right now, when it comes to, your overall nutrition program for fat loss, one particular meal or one particular shake isn't going to make or break your program. It's the overall diet. Like some people say, well, can I eat potatoes on a fat loss diet, or can I eat rice on a fat loss diet, or can I eat this or that, or red meat, or whatever? You could pretty much eat anything as long as it fits in with your overall nutrition and your overall diet. Because again, the most important thing in order to be burning body fat is having a caloric deficit. As long as you accomplish that, then you can have different things. I mean, like say, if you want to have a protein smoothie with peanut butter, you can make that work, right? You can make it work for a fat loss program. You can make it work for a muscle building program. It really depends on the overall structure to the diet. Okay, let's see. All right, here's an interesting question. You've been around for a while. What do you think girls find more attractive? The smaller, slim, muscular body, or someone who does it for strength and size? That's going to depend on the girl. It's simple as that. I mean, you can't just girls like small guys, girls like big guys, girls like guys in the middle. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I mean, look at your taste in women. Some people like skinny women. Some guys like women with a bit of meat on their bones. Some guys like women who are muscular, right? Everything in between. There's no right or wrong. And I'm sure if you talk to women, they're going to say the same thing about men. Some are going to find the slender physique more attractive. Some are going to find a muscular physique more attractive. Some are going to find, something in the middle more attractive. Bottom line, just be you, right? Focus on becoming the best version of yourself. As far as trying to think like what's the average or whatever, it's really personal preference. I mean, so I can't really speak for everybody on that part. I mean, it's a personal preference thing, what somebody finds attractive in that. So yeah, we'll just leave it at that and move on. Okay, another question. Why do I accumulate chest fat? Well, if you're gaining chest fat, chances are you're probably gaining fat all over, not just the chest, because very rarely do you gain fat in one area and not all over. So if you focus on losing body fat, chances are you're going to lose chest fat as well. The exception may be if you're experiencing what's known as gynecomastia, which is actually is male breast development, right? And it's usually caused by a hormonal imbalance. Sometimes it can be from having excess body fat, which would cause that hormonal imbalance, where you have more estrogen production, and the body actually starts to develop breast tissue, and that can cause this puffy, soft look to the chest, right? Especially around the nipple area. So it really depends on what you're considering chest fat. If it's just actual body fat, then obviously more cardio, better diet, focus on a fat loss program. You lose fat all over, and you should lose it in the chest as well. But if it's, again, without seeing you or knowing more about you, it's kind of hard to diagnose this. But if you find that you really have puffy nipples and around the whole chest area, and it just looks abnormal, like it's puffy there, then you might want to go to your doctor and to see if it actually is gynecomastia or if it's just excess body fat or whatever. Because sometimes this can be caused naturally. I know a lot of people think, oh, it's a side effect of steroids, which it can be, but you get a lot of guys that experience it naturally just due to hormonal imbalances. Especially guys who are going through puberty. Sometimes when your hormones are all out of whack, you can have like a spike in testosterone, and then some of that converts into excess estrogen as well, and it just causes a lot of mishmash in the body as your body is developing and the hormones are out of whack. So sometimes you will actually get elevated estrogen levels, and it can cause gynecomastia, which is breast development in men, and it's not a nice thing. I mean, there's several different things that can be done to correct it. I mean, if it's only minor, sometimes like anti-estrogen medication may be able to take care of it. If it's serious, sometimes it has to be surgically removed. But what I would recommend, I mean, if you think it's just excess body fat, then of course diet and exercise should take care of it. But if you're lean everywhere else, like, I mean, let's just say you've got visible six-pack abs and then you got puffy chest, and maybe you need to go check that out, because it could be something more than just excess body fat. All right, another question. What's better if I'm training for fat loss at the moment, push-pull legs, or 4 days on 1 day, 4-day, 1 muscle group per day split? Okay. What's better if I'm training for fat loss, push-pull legs, or 4-day, 1 muscle group per day? Personal preference. I'm going to tell you right now, what matters the most is the overall consistency and the calorie expenditure. If you want to do push-pull leg, I mean, I like the push-pull leg split. I really do, because it provides enough of a split where you're getting a break. I mean, it's from the different muscle groups, but you still get a lot of frequency in there, right? I like push-pull legs, and very often when I structure a workout program, it's very similar to that. I mean, if you go to the gym and just do 1 muscle group per day, unless you're training every single day, I find it a bit inefficient, because it takes you a long time to do all your body parts. Whereas like push-pull legs, boom, you get them all done in 3 days. 1 muscle group per day. I mean, if it's technically 1 muscle group per day, it could take you, a week or more to hit all your major muscle groups. So I prefer to combine muscle groups in something along the lines of a push-pull leg split. Now, there's different variations of it, right? But sometimes it might be even like some people focus primarily like on upper body day and a lower body day or whatever. But I found from personal experience that I tend to make my best progress if I bump up the frequency a little bit. So if you're looking for an answer, I would probably go with the push-pull leg. But with that being said, if you're still following a clean diet, consistent with your cardio and all that, you could still make the 1 muscle group per day program work as well. It really depends on calorie expenditure versus your caloric intake when it comes to fat loss. So you can make both work, but I would err on the push-pull leg. All right, Danny's joining us. So people are talking about that I need to eat 4 times a day, but I eat 2 to 3 big meals a day. I've gained 6 kilograms in 3 weeks. Can you hit me with some logic behind this? It really is going to depend on your overall nutrition intake for the day. 3 meals a day versus 4 meals a day. Look, if the calories are the same, the macronutrients are the same, the foods are the same, you're just splitting it 3 ways versus 4 ways, it's really not going to make that big a difference. Honestly, it's not. I mean, try it both ways, right? See how you respond. I mean, some people like more frequent meals. Some people like fewer meals. Some people like 1 meal a day. I've met several guys who follow the 1 meal a day program, and they find that works for them, right? See, the thing is, you're going to hear all these different opinions where somebody's saying, well, I do my diet this way, or I do my diet that way. And they try and say that everybody should do it that way. Where you have to realize we're all individuals. I mean, yes, there's going to be a lot of similarities, but we all have our own personal preferences, our own individual metabolism, and the way that our body responds. I mean, if you have like a skinny teenager who's trying to bulk up, or you have an overweight 40-year-old man who's trying to trim down. I'm not going to put both of them on the same diet. You know, there's you know, they need their own individual thing. So I'll give you some guidelines here. If you're trying to bulk up, I would recommend eating more often. And the reason for that is because if you're trying to consume more calories for a caloric surplus, it's easier to accomplish that with more meals. You know, hence the reason you see, you know, a bodybuilding bulking diet. Some guys recommend like the 6-meal-a-day diet. That's great if you're trying to get a lot of calories in for a surplus to grow from. On the flip side, if you're trying to have a caloric deficit to lose weight from, it doesn't make sense to have 6 meals a day, because it's very hard to limit those 6 meals to the point where they're small enough that you can have a caloric deficit and still eat 6 meals. So if you're trying to bulk up, get more food in, eat more meals. If you're trying to cut down and lose weight, eat fewer meals. That's my personal strategy. That's what I recommend for most people, and it's simple, but it works. So what I need to ask you is, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to bulk up? If you are, go with more often. If you're not, you know, you're trying to trim down, go with less often. Okay, another question. We have Oyson is joining us, and he says, Lee, the gym that I go to has no proper deadlifting equipment. Would a low bar squat be good enough? If not, why? And is there any other alternatives? Deadlifting equipment. The only equipment you need for a deadlift is a barbell, and of course some weight plates. You know, that helps. If you have a barbell and you have weight plates, you have all the necessary equipment to do a deadlift. So I don't know what you mean by, I mean, if you can do squats, I'm sure you could do a deadlift. Just take the barbell out of the squat rack, put it on the floor, and deadlift. So problem solved. I don't know. If there's more to the question than that, please feel free to elaborate, and I'll try my best. But the deadlift is as old as dirt. I mean, as the most basic barbell exercise there is. I mean, you put plates on a barbell and you pick it up off the ground. It doesn't get any more basic than that. So you don't really need equipment for deadlifting. Again, I may be generalizing your question. I don't know, but if I am, please feel free to elaborate, and I'll do my best to help you out. But I don't think you need anything special to do a deadlift. All right, Kyle's got a question saying, what types of workouts should someone do if they have a muscle imbalance on the body? Prioritize the muscle weakness. So whatever it is that's imbalanced and whatever it is that's stronger, you just adjust your workouts accordingly. I mean, let's just say that your upper body is really well developed, really strong, and you've got skinny chicken legs. Well, then scale back on the frequency and the volume of the upper body and increase the frequency and volume for the lower body. That's a very simple strategy, but it works. Same thing for any individual muscle group. Let's say, you know, your back is lagging. So then, you know, increase the volume, increase the frequency of your back workouts. If your calves are lagging, increase the volume, increase the frequency of your calf workouts. Whatever it is that is lagging, focus more on that. And then for the body parts that are stronger, put those on a maintenance program. So I mean, maybe just a few sets a week even. Like if your chest is really big and full and your back is lagging behind, then maybe just do, you know, a couple exercises for chest each week, and that's enough. And then prioritize what you would normally have done for the chest. Put the extra exercises and the extra training time into your back or whatever weak body part it is. This is something that I've done myself to help bring up some muscle imbalances that I have. One major muscle imbalance I have is my arms. My arms are just naturally smaller than my torso. Like my chest responds well, my back responds well, you know, calves, legs, they respond well, but arms have always been a very stubborn body part for me. So that's why I put together the Blast Your Biceps program. You can go over to blastyourbiceps.com if you want to download it. It's a full ebook program, you know, covering a 3-phase training program that specializes on arm training. It's called Blast Your Biceps just because it's got nice alliteration, but it's actually a full arm specialization training program that focuses on biceps and triceps. But the way that program works is you prioritize arm training and you scale back the volume and frequency of your stronger body parts. So in the case of that program, when you get into the actual arm specialization phase, back, chest, legs, shoulders, all those muscles are only hit once a week with a smaller workout, just basically putting them on a maintenance program. But the arms are hit twice a week with higher volume training. So this basically, you're taking the same volume of training that you would have done over the week for all your body parts, but you're just prioritizing it into the areas that need the most. And the logic behind that is you're going to maximize your body's recovery ability towards the areas that are needed most, and you're not going to be taking it up for the areas that don't need it as much. So that's what I would recommend if somebody has a muscle imbalance. Okay. All right, Matthew is saying, big fan of your work. I appreciate all the help you give to your viewers. What are your thoughts on taking Arginine powder? I've read a list of benefits and not just for the pump. You know, you can, there are a lot of benefits for it, absolutely. I mean, if you want to supplement with amino acids like that, then you certainly can. A lot of people like to use them maybe like as a pre-workout or something along those lines. You can do that. Oh. Hello. Hello. Oh my goodness. Hi. Look, we're doing a video chat on the internet, and we're helping all kinds of people with their workouts. That's what we're doing right now. Yeah. So, what he sees himself on the monitor there. This is Harvey. Harvey's my boy. Yeah.
Hey, boy.
Yeah.
Hey, boy.
Yeah, yes, Harvey. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, you flex your hand here and it happens on the screen over there. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Can Daddy finish his chat and then I'll come out and play ball with you? Here. Here, okay. All right. You go out and play with Mommy and Daddy will come out soon. Here. You go out and play. Yeah, Daddy will do. Here, you go out and play with Mommy. Daddy will just be out in a minute. I normally lock the door, but obviously I didn't. And he knows how to open doors, as you can tell. So he just barged on in and made an entrance. So there. What were we talking about? Amino acids, arginine. Yeah, if you want to take them, absolutely. I mean, it's not a must-have supplement. I'm going to tell you that right now. If you're looking for like must-have, just consuming adequate protein, meaning like that 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, that will meet your needs in terms of providing the raw materials you need for muscle building. But if you're looking to kind of like step it up to another level, then you can look into amino acid supplementation, whether that is individual amino acids, whether that is like branched chain amino acids or essential amino acids, whatever. You can look into those as an extra to your workout. I mean, it can help. There are definitely benefits to it, but look at the big picture. The fundamentals is your training and your nutrition. That's going to cover like 95% of your progress is going to come from that alone. Then if you're looking to like get that extra edge, the icing on the cake, if you will, that's where amino acid supplementation and creatine supplementation and some of these specific sports performance supplements can come into play. But the foundation is always going to be the training and the nutrition. Get that down pat first, then worry about this stuff afterwards. So if you are more advanced, you know, and you've already, you know, you're eating a good solid diet and you're doing that consistently, you're already training consistently in the gym, you have all the fundamentals in place, then you can look into this stuff as again, something that take your training to that another level. Another little benefit of supplements like that, and this is something a lot of people don't mention, but they can give you a psychological benefit as well. Because sometimes if you invest in a supplement, like maybe you haven't been taking amino acids and you say, you know what, for my next training phase, I'm going to start supplementing with an amino acid product, you know, before my workouts, or maybe I'm going to take a pre-workout or whatever. You're going to take some sort of performance supplement in that sense, you know, amino acids, pre-workouts, creatine, whatever. The fact that you invested money into that product and you're going to be using it, it can just mentally make you more focused because now you want to get the most benefit out of that product that you just purchased. I mean, it's sort of placebo effect, but there's also scientific benefits to whatever. I mean, like there's scientific benefits to amino acids, there's scientific benefits to arginine, creatine, whatever it is that you're using. But don't forget about that mental benefit as well. Just the fact that sometimes when you put that extra commitment, that extra investment behind it, you're more likely to actually follow through with your training and to kind of maximize the benefit of that supplement. So that also has an impact as well. And I've done that myself. You know, sometimes, you know, I try a new supplement, for example. You know, amino acids is a prime example of that. Like if you really want to push your workouts intensity, taking essential amino acids before and during your workouts can give you a bit of extra energy, extra recovery, help to allow you to train harder and recover better. And sometimes the combination of the extra nutrition as well as the extra motivation can really help spur on some new growth. All right, we have the King joining us. He says, awesome, keep up the work. Thank you, do appreciate the comments. We have Frost joining, and he says, nice videos, keep up the good work. I've got a question. Is working out for more than 45 minutes counterproductive? For example, I work out for about an hour to an hour and 30 every time I hit the gym. I also like to work out longer, and I find that I need that much time to get a good workout. Not saying that there's anything wrong with shorter workouts, but personally, I usually go to the gym for at least an hour and sometimes more, especially when I factor in the time it takes me to do my warm-up. You know, I like to start off with a cardio warm-up, and then I'll do some mobility exercises. Then I'll get into the actual weight training. Then post-workout, I usually like to stretch, and sometimes I'll even do some post-workout cardio. So depending on what it is I'm doing, I could be in the gym 90 minutes, some cases even 2 hours, right? That's pretty typical. Now, if you're in a jam and you want to just get a quick workout in, like do a couple exercises or just, you know, a single body part workout or whatever, do like a 45-minute session, so there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's definitely productive, but more often than not, I'm going to be in the gym longer to get a complete workout. I find if you have a time limit on your workouts, it's sometimes you tend to cut things out. And one of the things I don't like about shorter workouts is sometimes people try and skimp on the warm-ups in order to get more training done within the time frame. And if you have to cut anything out of the workout, I mean, I would cut down the total number of sets, or I would even cut down on some of the post-workout stuff that you do, but I would not cut out the warm-up, because the warm-up is, even though it can be boring and tedious and everything else, it's actually the most important part of the workout, because if you don't warm up properly and you end up getting injured, that's going to set you back more than anything else you do. I mean, if you normally do like 3 sets of an exercise, but you're pressed for time and you can only do 2 sets, that's not going to hinder your progress in the greater scheme of things. You know, if you had to skip an exercise because you're pressed for time, that's not really going to hinder your progress. But if you skip your warm-up and now you're training a muscle that's cold and you end up pulling or tearing or injuring yourself, that's definitely going to hinder your progress. You know, because an injury could take weeks to recover. Sometimes it could take months, and depending on the injury, you may never fully recover from it, right? So injury prevention is number one. And that's why sometimes my workouts take longer, is because I'm so conscious of doing a good warm-up. I don't just jump into a training session cold. I always make sure to take my time and do warm-ups and progressively heavier warm-up sets. This is another key element that a lot of people don't put enough emphasis in. I mean, when you're doing your workouts, like let's say you're doing a bench press workout, you know, just don't jump on the bench press and put on whatever weight you want to work on. I warm up with the empty barbell, you know, then I'll probably put 95 pounds on, then 135, then 185, and work my way up very gradually to get up to my top working weight. I don't just slap on the weight that you're going to lift, because that is an injury waiting to happen. So I always err on the longer training session, and I find by doing that, it makes the training more productive. All right, let's see what else we got. Okay, there's a follow-up to that question. Okay, basically, okay, it's all covered there. Never mind, I'm going to move on. Kareem is joining us. He says, Lee, what was the most you have ever made from fitness coaching? Oh, okay, interesting. The most that I had ever made, I'm assuming you mean bread and butter money. Okay, there's a couple questions there. I mean, one thing is, I'm assuming you mean like in the terms of a yearly salary or yearly income. That's what I would assume it is. My personal best year in fitness coaching was back around 2011, 2012. Those were the years where my business really peaked for me. And in fact, I would say starting from 2009, 2010, it started to really grow well for me. That's when I got big into making YouTube videos and things like that, and I found that YouTube was huge. Once I started making YouTube videos, that puts a face behind the programs and stuff, because before it was just all a website and written articles and things like that. So once I started getting big into YouTube, which started around 2008, and it started to escalate. So after a couple of years in 2010, started to do well. In 2011, I actually got chosen by YouTube as one of their top fitness trainers through the YouTube Next Trainer program. 2012, I think, was my peak year. That year, I actually generated $300,000 in personal income. That was my best year online. That was a good year, right? I mean, that was a good, healthy income that year, $300,000 in personal revenue. And since then, it's fluctuated, but I haven't hit that much in personal revenue since. So that was my personal best, 300,000. All right, let's see what else. Okay, Frost got another question. Should everyone just work out at their own pace, which I think is the way to go? I just don't like going home unless I feel satisfied that I did everything I needed to do. Or okay, wait, no, this might be a follow-up question to another one. Yeah, okay, never mind. That's a follow-up to his previous one about asking how long a workout should last. And yes, you should train at your own pace, and saying that you don't feel satisfied unless you do everything you need to do. And I'm the same way. Like I mentioned, I like to go in there and do a complete workout with the warm-up, the mobility, the actual training with the progressively heavier warm-up sets, and then the stretching and the cool-down. I like, when I get a full workout in, I feel satisfied, right? Because I know that I did everything I need to do. If I had to go in there and I had to skip on stuff like, oh, I don't have time to do my post-workout stretching, or I don't have time to do my cardio, or I don't have time to do this and that and the other thing, I'll still do it. If you know, anything is better than nothing. But ideally, if you can go in there and do a good, complete training session, that's the way to go. All right, James is joining us. Says excellent work as always. Thank you, James. Appreciate the comments. Woodulos is joining us. Woodulos is a regular to the chat. Says diesel cars are a nightmare to start in sub-zero temperatures. May need to move to a hotter country than Scotland. All right, he posted the question earlier, talking about having trouble starting his car. All right. Yeah, I've never had a diesel car, so I can't relate to the troubles or the complications of a diesel. I've never had one. Philip is asking, can I get ripped in 6 months? Possibly, depending on where you're starting from and how hard you're willing to work. I'll just kind of share some personal stories here. When I was getting ready for bodybuilding competitions, back in the early days, I always followed a 12-week diet, 12 weeks, aka 3 months. And the reason I did that is because when I was reading the bodybuilding magazines, most of the pro bodybuilders always said they're doing a 3-month cutting diet. So I decided, okay, I'm going to do a 3-month cutting diet too. And my first several shows, that's what I did, 3 months. And I got lean, but I didn't get ripped. And I, you know, tried hard and everything else. I mean, I'd go through, bust my ass for that 3-month cutting diet to get ready for a competition, and it didn't work for me. So then I decided, I'm just going to diet longer, right? That's what I decided to do. So I remember it was in 1997. This was the first year that I got ripped for competition. And I even have some pictures up on my website, some of these. So what I did that year is I started my diet at 6 months out rather than 3 months out. So my goal was at the 3-month out mark to be in my normal contest shape at that point, and then diet another 3 months beyond that. That was my goal, and it worked really well for me. So I took 3 months to go from fat to lean, and then another 3 months to go from lean to contest ripped, And that year I got ripped. I mean, I'm talking like I had striations, crisscross striations in the quads, striated in the triceps, and you know, the vascularity throughout my chest and all that kind of stuff. So that was the year that I actually got lean, or got ripped. I went from lean to ripped, and it took me 6 months. So most guys who are training consistently, like if you're in the gym and you're working out consistently and you have a good gym physique, right? You've got muscle, you're in shape, but yeah, you got a bit of extra body fat because you haven't been, you know, depleting yourself and focusing on cutting. But if you have that type of physique, 6 months should be enough to get ripped. Sometimes it might take longer, sometimes it might take less. It really depends on your individual metabolism and body type. I mean, I've seen some guys who have more of an ectomorph body type get ripped in the matter of 6 weeks. I've seen, I mean, I've been like coaching bodybuilders before, and some people will approach me, you know, say, oh, I'm thinking about doing a competition. And I say, well, how far out are you? And like, oh, I'm competition's next month, you know, coming up in 6 weeks or something. I'm like, man, I don't know. I mean, can we do it or not? And then sometimes I say, well, I really want to do the competition. All right, well, let's just boom, jump into a hardcore diet right off the bat. And they actually pull it off. I mean, I've seen guys literally get ripped in the matter of 6 weeks. But if that's the case, they're usually starting pretty darn lean to begin with. Again, like if they have an ectomorph type of body type, you know, naturally a lean, slender physique, you can usually pull it off. If you have more endomorphic tendencies, like I have the endomorphic tendencies, if I don't focus on my training and nutrition, I'll balloon up and get fat pretty darn easy. If you have that type of body type, it's going to take 6 months or more, right? So that's usually a good benchmark. But for most gym goers who are in decent shape to begin with, 6 months should get you in good shape. All right, got a phone ringing there. I'm going to let the wife get that, or the answer machine, one or the other. All right, let's move on. We have Kamar joining us. He says, Lee, why is it so hard for me to get abs? The rest of my body is muscle. That kind of goes back to the previous question that I just mentioned there. You're probably not dieting long enough. For most guys, the midsection is the most stubborn area to lose. It's common for guys to, you could be lean and muscular in the arms and shoulders. You can have vascularity and look awesome in the arms, shoulders, even in the legs, and still have a little bit of pudge around the belly. That's very normal. It's going to take longer. And it's not that you're doing anything wrong. It just means you need to diet longer, because you've already lost the excess fat in the easy areas, you know, the arms, the shoulders, the legs, wherever. You just need to diet longer in order to lose the excess body fat in the stubborn area, which is the midsection. You know, that's pretty common. So, I mean, if you commit to dieting longer, you will lose that weight. And that's the thing about fat loss. Like everybody, well, what's the best diet? What's this hardcore strategy? What's, you know, the key macronutrients, or the key this and that and the other thing? The key is to follow a program that works and then follow it long enough so that you can get the results. I mean, once you get into fat burning mode, your body's only going to burn, you know, 1 to 2 pounds of body fat per week. That's it. You know, and the further you get into your program, the slower that's going to be. So, I mean, if you're already getting to the last 10 pounds, you're going to be losing like 1 pound a week. That's it. So if you have to lose that last 10 pounds, it might take you 10 weeks to lose that last 10 pounds, because your body you're really tapping into that last bit of stored stubborn body fat, and it can take a while to do it. So the key to getting lean is to diet longer, not necessarily diet harder, because it can be counterintuitive when you diet harder, meaning like you try and starve the fat off, because when you do that, then you slow your metabolism down, and it just, you know, can cause all kinds of metabolic problems. I would rather you diet longer rather than harder. Okay, let's move on. All right, another question. I've about three coaches that have, all right, he says he has 3 coaches that have gave him 3 different workouts. How many days a week should I train? Well, first off, I wouldn't recommend seeking advice from 3 coaches and then trying, and now you're even asking me, so you're adding another. You need to follow the advice of one person, right? And you have to have confidence in that person that you choose to be your coach. Trying to follow too many coaches and like taking a little bit from this guy and a little bit from that guy and a little bit from somebody else, that can really mess with your progress because it could be contradictory. There could be, you really need to focus on one program, one coach, one method, and follow that through rather than trying to combine different methods and different approaches. So the piece of advice that I'd offer you from that question alone is follow one person's advice. If you're hiring a coach, follow one coach. Don't try and combine multiple coaches together because it's just going to confuse you. As far as how many days a week to train for body fat loss or for fat loss, because again, that was the same guy who was asking about the abs. Yep, oh right, that was Kamar. What I recommend is training every day, but doing it in such a way that you can recover. So a classic strategy that I recommend for most people who are starting a fat loss program: weight training one day, cardio the next. Weight training one day, cardio the next. So you can physically be active every single day, physically be elevating your metabolism, burning calories, but you're doing it in such a way that your body can recover. Because on your days off from the weight training, you're getting some active recovery, low intensity from the cardio. It's not breaking your body down. It's actually helping to aid with recovery. It's active recovery, and it doesn't stress out your central nervous system. So it allows you to physically exercise every single day, but still recover in the process. So that's why I would start with alternating weight training one day and cardio the next, and do so every day. Once, if you want to bump that up even more, you can even do cardio every single day, and then alternating weight training, you know, maybe every other day, or maybe 2 days on, 1 day off. That would be a more advanced split. But you still need to factor in recovery time depending on your individual work capacity. And this is going to vary depending on your age, your fitness level, the intensity that you're training at. There's a lot of different variables for how often to work out, but you still need to factor in adequate recovery, because if you get into the point where you're overtraining and breaking your body down faster than it can recover, that's going to slow your progress down as well. It also lowers your immune system and opens you up for you know, getting sick and just feeling like crap, right? So I mean, recovery is important. It's one of those things. A lot of people don't place enough emphasis on the recovery, but it definitely can make or break your progress. All right, let's see what else we got. Azim is joining us. Azim is a regular to these video chats. He says, Lee, you always say it's good to start with an empty barbell. Let's say I'm doing body weight workout and it's shoulder day. Would it be the right approach to do front raise, side raise, rear raise, etc. to warm up, since I'm following a body weight plan? Yeah, that's a good question. When you're doing body weight exercises, obviously you can't reduce your body weight. Well, in some exercises you can, like if you have an assisted dip or assisted pull-up machine, you can actually reduce your body weight. But let's say you're just doing body weight exercises, you know, push-ups and pull-ups and squats and whatever else. Depending on your fitness level, you may be able to just do those body weight exercises without a progressively heavier warm-up set. You may be able to do it, you know, it depends. But what I would still recommend is doing some mobility exercises first. Things like arm circles, rotator cuff rotations, you know, different. I have a full video. If you just do a search for Lee Hayward warm-up, it's actually a 10-minute warm-up / mobility routine that covers everything from your neck right down to your ankles and everything in between. So it covers warm-up and mobility exercises that you can do at home. Take you about 10 minutes and just warm up all your major muscles, joints, tendons, and ligaments. Do that, and then you should be able to jump into your body weight exercises that you have planned. If you find particular exercises hard, like this is something that I do personally. If I'm doing dips, for example, and even if I'm doing pull-ups, like maybe before I start actually doing pull-ups with my body weight, I may just, for my first set, just grab the pull-up bar and just hang, arm's length, hang from the pull-up bar, and just do that for, you know, 10, 20 seconds or something like that. And it just kind of like pre-stretches the muscles and tendons and ligaments and limbers up. And then I might do some arm circles and to kind of just, again, move the muscles. And then I'll get into the pull-ups. Rather than being totally cold and doing a pull-up, I'll do, you know, just stretch, let the body get used to hanging from the pull-up bar and supporting my full body weight. and then I'll do, again, the mobility exercises I mentioned. Then I'll get into the actual pull-ups. A strategy that I like to do when I'm doing dips, I may do something similar where I just get up and support my body, you know, in the dip bars, just support them. I may even do like a couple partial range of motion reps just to kind of start to warm up the joints, tendons, and ligaments. And then as I get warmed up, then I'll work into doing the full range of motion dip. So I don't just start with a full range of motion dip cold, because I find that I might overstrain my shoulders or chest or whatever. I'll kind of warm my way up to it by just supporting my body weight, doing a few partial reps, and then gradually work my way into doing a full range rep. So that's something that you can do as a warm up for your body weight exercises. Alrighty, let's see. We have Daniel joining us. How often should you perform finger opening reverse gripper exercises you mentioned? Every time you train your grip. Every time you train your grip. So if you're doing a hand gripper workout, you would follow that up with finger extension workouts. And this is covered in the hand gripper training manual. You can download it. I think I have a link to it on my main website. At least I used to. But yeah, or let's just see. Anyway, I can't remember the link to it now, but I'll probably put it in the video description or something like that after I post the replay of this video chat. But yeah, in the hand gripper training manual and the forearms PDF report, I do mention this. But the way it works is you would train your grip in an agonist and antagonist fashion. So if you're training to close your grip, you also want to do some training to open your grip, to work those finger extensors, and that helps to balance out the tendons and ligaments. And it helps too with reducing tendonitis, because you're working the forearm extensors as well as the forearm flexors to keep it in balance. So you want to do it every time that you do a hand gripper forearm workout. Make sure that you're working both the flexors and the extensors. Okay. All right, Azim's got another question. What certifications are required to become a trainer and a nutritionist, or licenses for that matter? Any help or guidance is appreciated. I'm going to be brutally honest with you. You don't need jack shit. I'm serious. Well, at least in North America. I don't know about other countries or whatever, but you can call yourself a personal trainer, or you can work as a personal trainer without any certifications whatsoever. So it's kind of a wild west in that regard. Now, it would help if you had some certifications or some experience or something behind you, but technically you don't need anything to call yourself a personal trainer. Now, from a practical point of view, if you're going to go to a gym and you're going to work as a trainer at the gym, they may have their own set of requirements. They may say, look, we're not going to hire you unless you have X, Y, and Z certification or something like that, which is fine. So if you want to become a trainer, what I would recommend is go to the gym or wherever it is that you want to work at and ask them, what certifications do you require your trainers to have? And then go get those certifications. And that may vary depending on the gym, depending on the country, depending on wherever. Right? I mean, like in Canada, we have different certification courses than they do in the United States, and then right, different certification courses than you do in Europe or Australia or wherever. Right? You're going to have different certification courses depending on where you live. So just go to the gym that you would like to work at, or the gyms that you're potentially thinking about applying, and just ask them, you know, what do you guys require? And they may give you a list of recommended certifications that they may have, and you can look into those. Another one that I would recommend as far as nutrition, precision nutrition is a good one. I've done that myself. I do recommend it. As far as the personal training certifications, there's a lot. There's some that you can do in person. There's some that you can do online, like through a correspondence course. There's a lot. Again, go to the gym and see what ones they require. But for nutrition, I would recommend start with precision nutrition first. That's a really good one. And then let's say if as far as other licenses or courses, I mean, sometimes you can go to post-secondary colleges and stuff, and they may have like a fitness and nutrition type of diploma program or whatever. Again, it really depends on where you live and what's available. So I can't offer specific advice for your particular location because I don't really know. And quite honestly, I don't even know what would be in our local area as far as post-secondary education courses. It's like I know some people go and get a kinesiology degree and they carry that over to their personal training because it's definitely going to help. But it really depends. Like I say, it really depends on the place that you want to work. You're going to have to find out there and see what their requirements are. Opinion on German volume training. I've done German volume training myself. I have it. It's actually one of the workouts of the month programs on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Inner Circle. It's an effective program. The thing that I don't like about it is it can get a bit boring because you're doing one exercise per muscle group, 10 sets of 10. It can get a bit monotonous. Like initially when you do it, it's probably cool because it's a change of pace and everything else. But after you're doing it for several weeks, it gets a bit monotonous because you're doing the same thing over and over. Personally, I have not been able to stick it out longer than a month because I just get bored and I want to do something different. But I have stuck it out before, and I do find it works. I mean, it can be a great way to bust past plateaus, especially in a particular exercise or whatever that you're stuck on. I mean, I'm telling you, if you want to bust past a plateau in your legs, 10 sets of 10 reps of barbell squats is downright brutal, and you will stimulate growth. I can guarantee you that. I mean, it is a brutal training program, but it does get a bit boring and monotonous. So kind of be aware of that up front going into it. Jonathan is joining us. How are we doing for time, guys? I got to check my time there. Oh, sugar shit shampoo. We went a bit over an hour. I'll probably just answer another couple questions and clue it up. Jonathan's joining, saying, Lee, my forearms seem to lag. I do heavy lifts, forearm curls, etc. What do you recommend? My body grows, but my forearms are stubborn. Grip training. Grip training is the #1 thing that I would recommend. It's kind of like that missing link for forearm development. Even if you're doing wrist curls, even if you're doing, all your other heavy lifts and stuff like that, specific grip training, more or less with hand grippers. That's the type of training I recommend. And I carry these on my website. You can go check it out just go to leehayward.com. There's a section there for heavy grips, hand grippers, and I share my personal experience with them. This has been the biggest thing that I found to help take your forearms to that next level. And in my case, when I started using grippers, I mean, I've already been training at that stage for years because I started using them in 2004 is when I decided to start using heavy grips, hand grippers. And up until that point, I mean, I was already working out for 14 years. But within 3 months of adding the heavy grippers to my training routine, I added a full inch to my forearms in 3 months. So 90 days, add a full inch to my forearms, and I went from closing the heavy grips 200 to closing the heavy grips 300. So I moved up 2 full grippers and added an inch of mass to my forearms at the same time. And that carried over into all my lifts. I was stronger with deadlifts, I was stronger with rows, I was stronger with anything where you have to grip, and your grip is that limiting factor. It just made me feel that much more solid and secure when I was doing my exercises. So it's definitely one of those missing links. Like most people don't focus on it, but if you add it to your training, it can make a huge difference. Okie dokie. Man, we still got a lot of questions coming through. I do appreciate all of them, but I tell you what, guys, I'm going to have to clue it up for today. Yeah, all right. Lots of questions there. I'll tell you what I might do, though, because there's some really good ones. I may take some of these other questions because I'll read through the video chat afterwards and all the other questions. And I may use some of these for future Ask Lee video Q&As where I just do a standalone video Q&A. I mean, I like those sometimes as well, in addition to these big, long video chats. But there's some really good ones there, so I'll definitely keep those in mind for some future video Q&As. All right, guys, thanks again for tuning in. Have yourself a great weekend, and I look forward to chatting to you next Friday. Take care. Over and out.